ABC Thursdays.
Welcome back.
Grey's Anatomy is all new.
Why didn't you tell me you were pregnant?
The drama going down
Bungee jumping from the bridge, his cord snapped.
We need all hands on deck.
is unbelievable.
You think you're God's gift to this hospital? You're just another doctor.
My relationship with Catherine is complicated.
I'm gonna sue you.
Your lawyers know where to find me.
You're unbelievable.
Grey's Anatomy. All new Thursdays, 10/9 Central on ABC and stream on Hulu.
Today on CityCast Boise, George Prentice from Boise State Public Radio is joining me this week, and he's giving us a sneak peek into his interview with the newly sworn-in police chief, Chris Dennison. We're also breaking down Idaho's first official voter guide. Plus, we've got fall films to catch as the leaves change color. It's Friday, September 27th. I'm Lindsay Van Allen, and this is what Boise's talking about. Well, we finally made it to Friday again, and joining me this week is George Prentice with Boise State Public Radio. Hey, George.
Hi. Thanks for the invite.
Oh, I always love having you on our Friday shows. And I heard that you got to talk to the new chief of police, Chris Dennison. I want to hear more about that. What did you get to talk with him about?
Well, I did, but to be clear, I'm certainly not the only person to have talked to the chief. I put my request in pretty early and just kind of giving people a sneak behind the curtain. I was looking for authenticity. So I will tell you just person to person, first of all, that he is not extremely charismatic. He is not by any means like a politician, if you will. And when I say that to his credit, actually. So we started with things like his brothers, his sisters, when he grew up, et cetera. I always like to just kind of deconstruct someone on a personal basis. But at some point, I wanted to ask, have you in the line of duty ever fired your weapon? I think it's a fair question.
Yeah.
And he said yes. And I could tell that it was not a question he was expecting. He gave me a rather detailed story of what had happened. And as you probably know, he comes from Tucson, where he spent most of his law enforcement career. So this happened in 2014, so almost a decade to the month, I think it was. And he was a sergeant, plainclothes officer in a pretty melodramatic setting. He was working Vice, so a fair amount of drugs and prostitution, but most importantly, guns. And he told me a story about how he and his partner had basically come down on this one suspect who they learned he was about to kill other people based on some contracts that were given to him, death contracts. But this suspect also came out and said, I'm a cop killer. And he was telling people this who were undercover. So he was looking actually forward to confronting police. Well, little did he know that police were pretty close by. So long story short, that there were long chases, lots of weapons that were thrown around, and then shots fired. And this particular suspect, who shouted that he was a cop killer again, indeed shot at police, and Dennison returned fire. So if there is such a thing as good news in any of this, it's that the suspect was not killed, and that they did give immediate health care to him on the scene, and he is behind bars for life for attempted murder. But my question was not about the melodrama. My question was not about, let's kind of do this Law and Order episode. My question to him was, tactics aside, training aside, what do you tell a young man or woman who wants to be a cop about coping with the fact that they have to pull a trigger in some instance?
Yeah.
How did you get through that? And at that point, that's where I found some revelation. So he talked about what he called the little things. He talked about how important it was for him to keep a journal. And all of a sudden, I felt as if our microphones weren't in the room. And then he talked a little bit about making sure he had a list of 3 to 5 people always nearby, people that he could talk to at any time, day or night. He talked quite a bit about the night of the incident and the emotions that he went through and how he struggled with his faith because of this. And so my button-up question was, okay, can you share that now with other young men and women who may be asked to pull a trigger? The worst words in law enforcement are officer-involved shooting. And we have had, and you and I have talked quite a bit about this, we've had way too many instances of this. And so we get wrapped up in the what happened, how did they get to that point, did anyone die, what's the investigation, etc. But I was looking for the human dynamic of this, at least through his eyes. It's like, how did you get over that? And does that inform the cop that you are today, even though you're the top cop, the cop that you are today? And so through that, and I know it sounds kind of, I don't know, maybe like a Hallmark card, but hearing about journaling, hearing about making sure that there were 3 to 5 good friends, all of a sudden I could relate, and I think a lot more people could relate to crises in our own lives, right? And whether that be a healthcare crisis or financial crisis, et cetera, because I think a lot of us are hurting in so many different ways.
Yeah, no, so excited to really listen to that, hear more about what he had to say, because
I haven't aired any of this yet, so I was
going to say, I know we've got this exclusive, but I think these are the conversations that the community wants to hear. So I'm very glad that he was willing to open up about that. I think that's an ongoing conversation that needs to be had with the community.
Yeah, and we talked about, transparency and what the city expects of him and staffing and things like that. So I checked as many boxes as I could, but I also wanted to get a chance. For instance, I asked him, where do you find peace? And he kind of sat back a little, and he's like, where did that question come from? And so his stock answer, and I'm not saying it's not the right answer, but he talked about his wife and his daughter, and then he paused for a moment. He says, I really like driving my Jeep. I really like going on long drives with my Jeep. And he kind of, with a very soft voice, and I'm just thinking, okay, you're a person. you're a person with a gun, to be sure, in the corner office. But yeah, okay. So I'm always anxious to have a real conversation.
Immerse yourself in Candy Crush Music Season. Crush the competition for a chance to win 3 epic live music experiences anywhere in the world. Discover the hottest new tracks from Toki Monster, Kimbra, and Lazewo in-game now. Now that sounds sweet. Quicker tap the banner to download Candy Crush and play Music Season now. Start September 19th. Open to players 18 older above level 25 in eligible countries. Price cap value and terms apply.
Cool shoes. My brother would love those.
Ooh, I don't share my sources.
Well, I just found them using Circle to search with Google on my new Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 6.
What?
And I texted them to my brother on the other side of this massive screen.
Where did you get that phone?
Lucky for you, I don't gatekeep my sources. Tell them.
Get your own Galaxy Z Fold 6 now at Samsung.com. Requires internet connection. Results may vary by uniqueness, clarity, and framing of circled image and related factors.
Hey, George, I got some interesting mail this week. I'm curious if you got the same thing. I got my voter guide, my Ada County and Idaho voter guide. Did you get it this week?
I'm holding it. We are one of, I think, 850,000 people who got these.
Yes. Yeah, it wasn't unique mail, but it is the first time that Idaho has done this. I'm really, really curious what your thoughts are about this. I've got mine too. I don't know what kind of a nerd that makes me, but I've got mine too. really curious about your thoughts.
So I love the intention, and I've known Phil McGrain for quite some time, and I've known that this has been a dream of his long before he was Secretary of State. So I love the intention of it. That said, turn to page, I don't know, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and it's nothing but small print. It's a lot of print, and it's the detail. I mean, again, to their credit, it's the detail of Proposition 1. But was that necessary? I'm not sure. I think they kind of buried the lead too. I think the fact that you can actually preview your own sample ballot, and they mentioned that in here, I think that's the real takeaway, because so many of us are technically connected now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what's also new is that we can go online and actually see the specific ballot in our neighborhood, in our precinct that we will see. I think that's exciting. So was this worth, and I want to make sure I got the price tag right, because I remember the debate at the legislature, $350,000? Not so sure.
I was going to say, I applaud this first effort for finally happening, because I was doing voter guides on my TikTok, which is not the most official. I'm not going to pretend they weren't biased, but there wasn't anything. And I would get email after email, like message after message from people asking for information about the ballots, information about voting. And I just realized there was this huge information gap in Idaho where people didn't know where to find the information. It wasn't clear. They wanted to be informed in their voting, but just didn't have the tools. And so as someone making TikTok, I was like, well, let me talk about some of the local things, some of the, and that's how bad it was, that people were like, I'm going to talk to somebody who makes TikToks and hopefully get some information there. So I applaud the effort to get information out. And I do think there was good information. I will agree with you though. It is onerous to get through.
Yeah.
There was a lot of it. I don't know. Maybe this is because of technology. Maybe this is just how people are now, but it needed to be not even smaller snippets, but more accessible. If I'm like you said, those pages, if I'm not really invested in this, if I'm just looking for information so I can make a decision, this is a lot to comb through.
And for the record, I am really invested, and I struggle. By the way, I mean, this is almost all about Proposition 1, right? I mean,
Yes.
There isn't a word in here about the Idaho legislature and the fact that every seat is up for grabs. And then I heard that there's some contest for the White House, but again, as an effort, let's give them an A for that. But I think there are people who are really good at, I don't know, design or access or something like that maybe they could reach out to.
Yes. No, let's find some people who graphic design is their passion.
Yeah.
Voter guide design is their passion. And because I agree with you, I would, the thing I was most disappointed in is I wanted to see something about every district, every seat, because that's the information that people are looking for. Have every candidate give a little blurb. And that's what I've seen that other states do. So I don't know if the issue was the funding. They just didn't have enough money to print all of that and mail all of that. But that is definitely more what I would want to see, because every single district has a contested seat this year. I think that's a huge deal. There's nobody's really running unopposed in districts this year. There's a Dem and a Republican in all these seats. And so that needs to be part of the discussion. Voters should know that. And just looking at this voter guide, you don't see that at all.
Absolutely. And one of Phil McGrain's best arguments is that 2 years ago, in one of the down ballot races, it was for an Ada County Highway District Commissioner. The margin, I think, was 2 votes or something. I think it was something like 2 or 3 votes. But it turned out that so many people never voted in that category. They did cast a ballot in, the top races, et cetera. But by the time you get down to the 6th, the 7th, the 8th, and the 9th or whatever down that ballot, people just didn't even bother. And I think that's a real important message too.
Yeah.
And so whether it's you don't know about the race or, you really do need to weigh in. And this is how really important things happen. And this is how really good and really bad people get elected.
So I think this was a good first try, but I think we just need more information on candidates. There needs to be more information about all of these races. And I know that is going to be something much bigger than what was sent out now, but people need it. Like, people absolutely need access.
And if I had that proverbial magic wand, I would make Election Day a national holiday, or at least a Saturday, so that people don't feel rushed. And maybe people take their time reading, before they go to the polls, et cetera. But you and I know what election night is going to be like at 6 or 7 p.m. Yeah, a fair amount of people are going to vote early, et cetera. But I am really, really afraid this year of long, long lines at the polls, an hour or 2 hours before the polls close. And this ballot's going to be pretty long. I'm getting nervous about that because it's back to your point. It's about, hey, I've got a life. I've got to get dinner on the table. I've got to get home. And I think a lot of nations make Election Day a holiday or do it on a weekend. I don't know if it'll ever happen here, but doesn't that make sense? Hey, it's so important that we don't want you to worry about anything else.
Absolutely. And while we wrap this all up and everybody's thinking about voting, if you want to view a sample ballot or request directions to a polling place or request an absentee ballot, you're going to go to voteidaho.gov. And the deadline to register to vote online is October 11th. So that is coming up very quickly. And that would be at voteidaho.gov. And then the deadline to request an absentee ballot is October 25th. Early voting begins October 21st. So those are just some kind of dates to keep in mind, to remember. And then Election Day is November 5th. So just to get in your calendars, keep in mind, lots of dates coming up, but that when this is airing, you still have a couple weeks. So, encourage those around you, run to voteidaho.gov, get it done. Don't put it off. You can register to vote Election Day, but I know personally for me, I like the security of already knowing it's done, it's ready. I can just go in and cast my ballot. So just some dates to keep in mind heading into the election.
And breathe. This is really going to be a challenging few weeks for all of us. Breathe.
Newsflash, you can lose weight like a celebrity without being a celebrity. New Glucotrim from GNC delivers serious results with a proven formula that features ingredients derived from nature, like berberine. And the best part? You don't need a crazy expensive prescription. Glucotrim works with your body to support healthy blood sugar and protect lean muscle mass, unlike other products out there. And did I mention it's caffeine-free? So if you want real results, get on that celebrity weight loss level with new Glucotrim. Get it at GNC.
In the 2024 Jeep Grand Cherokee L, the journey from point A to point B isn't such a rush. In fact, with 3 rows of spacious comfort, thoughtfully crafted luxurious design, and an available premium Macintosh audio system, you'll find yourself seeking out the scenic route more often, even if it's just another lap around the block. Jeep, there's only one. Visit Jeep.com to learn more. Jeep is a registered trademark of FCA US LLC.
Okay, after that heavy topic, George, I am ready for picks of the week. I don't know about you, but I am ready to talk about what I'm looking forward to. Mine is really simple this week, but the weather is going to be lovely. Mm-hmm. The smoke is gone. The leaves are changing. I am planning on spending just the whole weekend at parks and the Greenbelt. Like I've told my kids, we are going to be outside. We are going to be just living it up. It's going to be really warm on Saturday. So it's going to kind of be that second summer kind of vibe.
Yeah.
But the smoke is gone. I am just excited to be outside and just soaking it all in before it starts getting cold. So my pick of the week is just enjoy this warm weekend, this lovely weather. And I have seen just some really, really great fall foliage.
Have you ever seen those apps where you can take a photo of a leaf and it will identify the tree, etc.? And I've had so much fun with those apps here in Boise. We're the city of trees, and we have so many different trees, and we are so blessed by the Greenbelt.
Oh yes, I was going to say it is just such a great space to be able to have accessible outdoorness for, as you know, and I'm not like super outdoorsy, but it's just nice, it's paved, you can walk, you can ride your bike. It's great for families. It's just such a great space. And now that the leaves are starting to turn, it's just so nice. It's a great space to take a fall walk. And yeah, I did know about that. My kids actually know about that. That's one of their favorite things, is like just taking pictures of stuff and asking Google what it is. So that's half of what we do on these walks. They'll see like a little lizard or some leaves. And yeah, we're constantly finding out new things about our area while we walk along the Greenbelt. So yeah, that's where we're going to be this weekend. What about you? What's your pick of the week, George?
Well, my pick of the week, it's going to be a movie, right?
Yeah, I was counting on it. I'm like, okay, George is on. I'm going to know what movie I need to watch.
Okay, so here's the movie to watch this weekend. It opens Friday. So now I saw this movie a year ago. And I was curious, why did it not open a year ago? Well, the studio was very specific as far as holding it, and this is a Oscar-worthy film, and so they've waited for this year's award season. It is a film called Lee, and it stars the amazing Kate Winslet. It's a true story of Lee Miller, who was a fashion model in the late 20th century, and she became a photographer for Vogue Europe during World War II. So she became a war photographer. And it's a fabulous, fabulous movie. But I want to tease you a little bit by telling you about a film that hasn't opened yet, but it will open October 3rd.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
And the reason I want to mention it is because it's probably not going to have a huge campaign with lots of ads, etc. It is called The Outrun, and it stars Saoirse Ronan, who is just so wonderful in all of her films. But this is a film that I didn't think could be made because it's based on a memoir of a young Scottish journalist, Amy Liptrot, who wrote about her own spiral in her time in London with alcohol and addiction and how she came out of that and came back to her very, very rural home in northern Scotland. It is about life. It is about survival. It is about understanding that things just sometimes don't always get better, but they get a little less worse. And I can't shake this movie. It almost transcends the art form. It's almost like poetry. And Saoirse Ronan, who has, I think, been nominated for an Oscar 3 or 4 times already, even though I think she's in her 20s. This film is so, so very good. And I think even though it is specific about someone's struggle with addiction, it is about hurt, and it is about how we are all a little broken, and it is about sometimes how we turn to nature and the elements and the waves and the wind and silence and the outdoors as our companion, because we are all on this planet together. And I just can't shake this film. It is called The Outrun, which is what Scottish people call the very, very, very far places where most people don't go.
Oh, I was interested and now I'm intrigued. Thank you so much for this recommendation. I think that sounds really, really phenomenal.
It's a small little film. It's going to need some love. It's going to need a little chit chat. So I wanted to see if I can get some going.
Well, thank you for mentioning it. And thank you for joining me. I hope you have a great weekend, George.
You too. And I'll probably see you on the Greenbelt.
Yes, hopefully. I'll be looking for you. That's all for today here on CityCast Boise. The show is produced by Evelyn Avitia, Frankie Barnhill, Francisco Kilgore, and me, Lindsay Van Allen. Blake Hunter writes our Hey Boise newsletter, and our music is by Up Is The Down Is The. If you enjoyed our show today, leave us a review. That helps other people find us. We'll be back on Monday with a local coffee shop that is working to foster community on the West Bench. Catch you then.